Good afternoon and good morning, everybody. My name is Jonathan Bass over at RevenueWell, and I am really excited about today's webinar, Rock Customer Service from Front to Back. Laura Hatch is our speaker. Laura's done a lot of work with us. She's the founder of Front Office Rocks. She also has a book, Step Away from the Drill, which I'm not even joking, it's on my office desk, and I refer to it at least a couple times a week. And she is really just a grandmaster at teaching training from end to end throughout the office. So I'm really excited about today's presentation. I'm just going to step out of the way and let you run, Laura. So without further ado, one last thing, we do have a Q&A at the end, so fire over questions. I'll be recording them and all and facilitating at the end. So Laura, floor is yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I'm super excited to be doing this webinar. I've been a huge fan of RevenueWell since the very beginning, used it in my office and love it. So I'm really glad to be doing this. And I'm excited about this topic because if you know me and Front Office Rocks, then you know our focus has been on front office. But recently we've launched Back Office Rocks, which is all part of our front office site and training, but we're focusing now just not on the front, but also on the back. So when RevenueWell asked me to do this, I got super excited because I'm focusing a lot more now on, the importance of customer service and working together as a team, because it's great if our front office team's amazing, but if the back office is dropping the ball, then, the experience for the patient isn't amazing all the way around. So with no further, lead in, let's kind of just get going. Because we only have an hour or 45 minutes, I can't talk about everything. But I wanted to talk about when it comes to rocking customer service, there's some key points that every office should focus on. There's a lot more than just listed here, but what we're going to talk about in this webinar is we're going to talk about what I think is the biggest missing piece of most dental offices. I want to talk starting with why, because the industry we're in has a huge why that everybody on your team should know and be focused on and keep in the forefront of their day-to-day activities. We're going to talk about the importance of customer service and patient experience. And then I'm going to jump into huddles and handoffs, because huddles and handoffs are the main daily communication processes and tools that we do to rock that customer service. So those are the two focuses I want to talk about in our day-to-day jobs. And then lastly, just how to recognize and build a high-performing team, because that's ultimately what we want. We want the front and the back working together, the doctor and the assistants and the hygienists and everybody on the team working as one instead of working against each other. So first we have to talk about how patients judge us. And if you really think about it, patients don't judge us on dentistry. They don't know whether your dentist is amazing or not. They don't know whether or not they're getting the best margin or the best shade match or the highest tech dentistry. They really don't know how good our dentistry is. They judge us on everything else. They judge us on our website, the reviews that they read about our office. How easy was it to schedule with your practice? How were they greeted when they called in for their first appointment or to schedule an appointment, or when they show up? Does our technology up to date? Are we sending appointment reminders from RevenueWell and birthday emails? Or do we look high tech or seem high tech? How does the office look and feel when they walk in? Does it feel, not that it has to necessarily feel like a spa, but if it feels like it was decorated in 1985, no matter how good your dentistry is, patients are judging you on that. And they're going to assume that if your office is outdated, if your technology is not up to speed, if you're not greeting them well, then your dentistry is probably not great also. They're judging us on communication. We're going to talk about communication today, and verbal and nonverbal when it comes to customer service. How we present our cases, how we present the treatment to patients. And like I said, we're going to talk about handoffs and then follow-ups. How do we follow up with a patient? Do we follow up? If we present the patient that they need some dentistry, a crown or fillings, and then we don't follow up with them, then they're going to question whether or not they really needed it or not anyway. So the reason that we need to focus and talk about rocking our customer service is because if we're truly going to help our patients with their dentistry, then we need to give them an amazing experience, because that fully ties back into case acceptance. And if the patient's not accepting treatment, we can't give them amazing dentistry. So I joke around about this, but I put this up when I speak and I say, which would you like to be greeted by if you walked in to an office? And I would say probably the smiling lady on the bottom is who I prefer if I walk into a dental office or any sort of a medical office. But a lot of times we get that grouchy old lady on the top right. And I joke about this because when I pulled this presentation together, the lady on the bottom with the smiling face is the hotel concierge. That's what it's called, hotel concierge. And the grouchy old lady on the top right, the name of this picture is dental office manager. So we already have the idea, or the public has this idea that we're the grouchy old, dental office personnel versus the really smiling dental concierge or hotel concierge. But I'll be honest with you. I mean, I've worked in a dental office since 2002, and I go in every day feeling like the hotel concierge in the morning, or most days. And after 45 minutes on the phone with MetLife, and they've just denied a claim for a patient that we know is going to have an issue with it, I start to feel like the lady on the upper right. But it's so important that even if we're feeling like that grouchy old lady because we're having one of those days, our schedule just fell apart, the insurance is denying claims, we're dealing with people on the insurance, on the phones, and we just feel like we're grouchy, we have to fake it till we make it and basically give every patient that smiling face, give them that amazing customer service. Because really there's a big difference between people love us on Yelp and people hate us on Yelp. Now, I'm not advocating Yelp here by any means. I'm just saying that people will go out and complain about your office all day long if they're not getting amazing service. And on top of that, if you go and you look at the reviews online about dental offices in general, most of the time, the negative reviews have very little to do with the dentistry. Most of the time, it has to do with how the patient was treated in the office, how we handled their bill, how we handled their appointment, how we handled them if they tried to cancel or whatever. They're talking about us. They're talking about the team. They're talking about how we treated them. And that's what people are going out there talking about, not the dentistry. So it's huge for us to realize and recognize what an impact we have in case acceptance and taking care of our patients, because it really comes down to how the patient was treated and how they felt in the office. And I'm not, it's not just me saying this. This is literally, statistics out there show 7 in 10 Americans said they'd be willing to spend more with companies they believe provide excellent customer service. So if we really want to get our patients to accept dentistry, to really help our patients, we need to understand how important customer service is, because people are going to spend more at a place that they feel they're receiving it. And especially if you are a fee-for-service office or you're one that wants to get out of insurances, there is no way that you can easily and effectively get out of insurances until or when you are, offering amazing customer service. So this is something that's super important to not only help our patients get their dentistry, but also to help our practices grow and do better. Why does it matter? Another survey, American Express survey, says 78% of consumers have bailed on a transaction because they've received poor customer service. So even if they wanted a product, they were so put off by the experience that they delayed their purchase or bought it somewhere else. Now, think about what we do for a living. We put drills and needles in people's mouths and we make them pay us thousands of dollars for something nobody's ever going to see. So people don't want what we do. People are not, jumping up and down going, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get that root canal done. I can't wait to get that crown done, and you're going to file my tooth down to a nub and then put a fake tooth on it. Like, it's not something exciting and fun like a vacation or a big screen TV. So people are going to find every reason not to come to the dentist if possible. And when it comes to customer service, they're gonna, if we're not offering amazing customer service, they're gonna put that on us and say, you know what, I'm just not gonna get that dentistry done, or I'm gonna go somewhere else, or I'm gonna wait until it hurts. So if we're really going to help our patients and rock that for our patients, we need to understand how important customer service is. But I get it. Like, I could get so much done if it wasn't for our patients, right? I mean, we are not a hotel concierge. A hotel concierge, what do? They give directions, they greet you when you show up, maybe they check your suitcases in, they make reservations for you for dinner, and they work in an amazing environment. We, on the other hand, we have to deal with such things as cancellations. Everybody listening to this has had a last minute cancellation or no show this week, and it's only Tuesday. And if you probably wish you only had one, right? There's probably many offices who've had multiple. In fact, you might be listening to me right now because someone didn't show up for their appointment. So we have cancellations, we have no shows. We have patients who tell the doctor, yeah, doc, that sounds good. I want to do that treatment plan, right? And I want to do those 3 crowns you recommend. And they shake their head at the doctor, then they walk out and they say to us, I'll do 1 this year, 1 next year, and 1 the year after. We have drama, right? We have drama in the offices, and we're a female-dominated industry, and there's a lot of people pointing fingers of what you're not doing and what she should be doing, and we have that. We have doctors to deal with, which we love our doctors, but they're a breed all to their own. We have patients who say they have no money. They come in their new car, they just got back from a trip to Europe, they're holding their iPhone 10, they got a $5 Starbucks coffee cup, a Frappuccino, and then they're telling us they don't have $200 to do a filling. We have insurances telling us every day that, they're going to decline something or deny something. We have equipment breaking last minute. And here we are trying to see a patient, and now we've got to try to figure out how to get something to work. We have schedule issues, we have stress, we have lack of teamwork, and we're always trying to implement some new technology or some new system. So it makes sense that many times we walk in with that big smile on our face, and by 10 a.m. we're not feeling it anymore. But we have to understand that we have to push through it because our focus needs to be on the patient and on the team. So if you don't know who I am, just a quick overview of me. I'm the owner and founder of Front Office Rocks. We're an online training website. My background is actually in human resources, and I have a master's degree in organizational development. I have a background in sales and recruiting, management, and training. And in 2002, I was brought into the dental office because I was married to a dentist. So I got thrown into dentistry, much like many of us. It's not like I planned to be a dental office manager when I was 5. It just kind of happened, and here I am. I found that when I started in 2002, there wasn't a lot of resources to train front office teams or teams in general. You had to go to conferences, you had to, read magazine articles, but we didn't have great webinars like this and great companies like RevenueWell and Front Office Rocks to teach us. So I founded Front Office Rocks about 5 years ago with the idea that we needed a resource to train teams. I have since also found an organization which both RevenueWell and I love, which is called AADOM. It's the American Association of Dental Office Management. And if you haven't checked it out already, if you're an office manager, you should look into them. But I'm now a fellow of AADOM, and I was named one of the top 25 women in dentistry in 2016 by DPR magazine. So not bad for somebody who didn't know anything about dentistry. And so I take this training and what I speak on from the perspective of being in the trenches. I'm not a dental consultant. Love them, respect them. I come into this teaching from sitting at the front desk. I know what it's like to sit at the front desk, have 4 phones ringing at once, have a patient show up late, have the toilet overflowing, the doctor wants to know where their patient is, and somebody shows up for their cleaning and wants us to hold their baby. That's our lives when it comes to the front office. So that's where my background is and where my training comes from. So let's jump into this. I think that the biggest missing piece in most dental offices is that we're missing our purpose or our intention. That's the reason for why something is done. Many times in dental offices, we get told what to do. We get told how to do it, but we don't get told why. What's our purpose? What's the intention behind it? We've given duties and we do them. But without intention or purpose, there's not a lot of energy behind it. So my hope is to take your want, right, versus intention. Let's find out why we're doing the things we're doing, and let's all work towards the same goal. If you see here, at the bottom is action, and we have a lot of offices that are busy. Front's busy, back's busy, everyone's running around doing their things. But are we all working towards the same goal? Do we know what our goal is? Do you know what your doctor wants to do with a practice and wants to do with patients? Do you want to be the biggest practice in your county? Do you want to, offer amazing spa-like customer service experience? Do you want to have all your specialties under one roof? Like, where are we going with the practice? And then how do my activities and my role play into that? When your whole team is working towards the same goal, the same intention towards a goal, you are going to have an amazing rock star team. And that's really where we want to go. So I have a lot of people ask me, things like, Laura, when should I do confirmation emails? Should we send them out a week in advance, 2 weeks in advance? Should we send text messages? Should we make phone calls? All of the things about what we do in the front. And my question to you is, an example with confirmation calls, what's our goal, right? When we're doing confirmation calls, when we're doing outstanding treatment plan calls, when we're doing reactivation calls, what's our goal? Ultimately, our goal is to get their butts in the chair, right? That's ultimately our goal. If the patient's butt is not in the dental chair, we can't help them. We can't help them keep their teeth for life. We can't help them live a longer and better life. So everything that we do, especially in the front, on the front team, is the goal should always be butts in the chair, because that is where we're going to help achieve the goal of the practice. So when it comes to confirmation calls, one of the things I say is, people say, okay, with RevenueWell, I can send an email, I can send a text message, when should I send them? And you should have policies and systems set up, but every patient's different, right? Some patients, one email is all they need, and they'll show up for the appointment. And other patients, like my son, who's 18, you better send 3 emails, 2 text messages, call him the morning of, text him to get in the car, and go out in the parking lot and get him off his phone and get his butt in the chair, right? So it really depends on the patient. And we need to remember, with everything that we're doing, why are we doing it? What's the purpose behind it? Ultimately, for everything in the front, it's butts in the chair. So let's talk about why. This is part of the whole intention and missing piece in dental offices, because why is not about making money. That's the result. Why is the purpose, the cause, the belief, or the reason the office exists. It's way bigger than production, collections, and new patients, right? It is the foundation of why your dentist even started a dental practice. Why, it's the foundation of what you should be doing to take care of your patients each and every day. And we're lucky in our industry because we have a really big why, right? I said earlier that our patients, what we do is we put drills and needles in their mouths, right? And nobody really wants that. But on the flip side, we have a huge why. Our why should be to help our patients keep their teeth for life, to help our patients live a longer and better life. That why is huge, okay? Now, what happens is a lot of times we forget the why, or we never really train and push our team and grow our team with the why at the forefront of what we're doing. We focus too much on how and what. And how, those are the things that make your office special and set you apart from the competition. And what are the products that you sell and the services that you offer. So we focus a lot on production, collections, new patients, overhead, right? All of that, which is all great because we have a business to run and we need to make sure we're doing a good job. But all of those numbers ultimately need to represent your why, right? Production and collections is really just a number that reflects how many patients you're helping, right? How many teeth did you save this month or this year? So we need to always make sure that we are directing our teams, our doctor, and regularly talking about the why. Because as we grow and as we add team members, we start to get more focused on the how and what, and we've really forgotten about the why. So first, you need to communicate your why and be very clear. I think this is something that you should do with your team on a regular basis. Once a month, maybe at the beginning of a team meeting, maybe once a year, review your mission and your vision. And it really shouldn't be just some piece of paper that's up on the wall that we all kind of point at and go, yeah, that's what we do. It really should be clear in the hearts of your team, right, of what our why is. And your how and what should always reflect your why. So if you are doing things in your practice that are against your why, right, they're just not in line with your why, then you need to refocus on that and look at that closely and say, is what we're doing really helping us achieve the why, the reason that we're here? And don't lose your why. Don't get stuck on the how or what as it grows, because that happens a lot of times. when we first start, I'm going to be the best dental receptionist in all of, all the industry. I'm going to be the best dentist in the county. I'm going to be the most amazing hygienist. And then now we get up on Monday morning and we're like, oh, I should have gone to work at a donut shop, right? Because we've forgotten the why. And working in a dental office can be stressful. Working with a team of, in a stressful environment, team of usually a lot of females, can be a little crazy. Patients coming in all the time saying they don't like to be there. We've got crazy schedules. We've got, emergencies trying to fit in. So it can be hard sometimes. And so remembering our why and continually reminding your team why we're here is going to help build that team that's going to make the experience great for your patients. So in order to be amazing for your patients, you have to realize why it's important. And it's not just about the Yelp reviews. We have to remember that your patients, there's a dentist on every corner. So if they're not receiving amazing experience from your office, they very easily can go down the street. And nowadays, patients expect more. They expect that when they come in, they're not just going to get, a sign in, have a seat, we'll be with you in a minute. They're actually expecting you now to greet them and to offer them good technology, good experiences, good welcome, welcome emails, welcome when they walk in the practice. Also, patients have more dental knowledge than ever before, good and bad, right? So patients are learning, shockingly, they're learning that their mouth is connected to their body. And now they want offices that have a goal and a purpose in mind to help them stay healthy. And you guys have to earn it. Patients are paying more out of pocket than ever before. And dental insurance has not gone up since I've been in dentistry. They get the same amount that they used to get, and our fees have gone up, our prices have gone up. So patients are paying more out of pocket than ever before, and especially now, insurances are cutting back a lot. So you really have to earn that from the patients. People have other priorities in spending. They are weighing, do I, get those, 8 veneers across the front, or do I take the trip to Europe? Do I replace that missing tooth, or do I, buy the new car I've been waiting on? People have other priorities in spending, and we have to earn it if we're really going to help our patients. And then your competition is stepping up. I know there's every office listening probably has a new corporate dentist or DSO or dental office nearby that's really kind of stepping up the game. They are increasing their marketing. They're offering great hours and specials to patients, and they can train their teams and get associate doctors in, and we have to be able to compete against that. So we really have to earn it. So just some basic customer service rules, and I bring this up because I'm not picking on generations here by any means, but I just feel that customer service hasn't been taught much, right? Maybe my generation before me was taught, maybe my generation a little bit, but when was the last time somebody actually taught you the basics of customer service? So this might be a really good thing to do with your team, to say, let's have a meeting and just talk about things that we do that make patients know we appreciate them. Standing up and greeting the patient, welcoming them back to the office, making them feel comfortable when they walk in. Don't make the patient feel like they're interrupting you or they're a nuisance, because if that patient decides to go to another dental office, you lose enough patients, you don't have a job. Smile all the time, smile, smile, smile. Introduce yourself to the patients. Be responsible for them when they're in your area. If they're in the reception area and you're sitting at the front desk, don't ignore them. Talk to them. Find out how their day's going. Have a little conversation with them. Don't put work in front of the patients. If they're sitting in the operatory, don't leave them back there to look at the degrees on the wall and old magazines. Sit and talk to them for a while. Don't make patients wait. People do not like to wait. So do whatever you can to small talk, focus on the patients, and not put priority over the patients. And then treat them as you would treat your family member. The way you would treat the most important person in your family, that's how you want to treat your patients. Put the patients first. Now I'm going to talk a little bit now about verbal skills, and I'm going to start with the premise that I'm not a script person. I don't think scripts work. I do think you need to practice and role play, but I don't think scripts come from the heart. So when I talk about this training, I'm not telling you, or when I go into this, I'm not telling you have to say these things verbatim. I'm just saying that you need to think about the way we say things and practice saying them so that there's heart behind it and that patients believe it and that they know you care. You should always have why behind everything you say and lead with your heart. You guys know, if you call into a place that's reading off of a script, it is, how can I help you today, right? I actually called into an office recently and she answered the phone. It's a sunny day at ABC Dental. How can I help you? And I thought, it's not very sunny over there. It sounds like it's kind of cloudy, right? You could tell she wasn't happy with what she had to say and she was having a bad day. So with everything I'm about to talk about, just make sure that you work with your team to find ways to say things that offer amazing service, but offer it with heart, okay? There's some word choices that you should think about, right? So compare words to, for example, if a patient says, well, doctor said I needed a crown. Do you think I really need it? There's a big difference between, yes, I really think you need it. If doctor diagnosed it, it's very important, versus, well, yeah, maybe, right? A patient's not going to accept treatment or do the dentistry if you start with maybe or saying things like cheap versus affordable, right? We're the cheapest dentist in town. Well, I don't want to go to the cheapest dentist in town. We can make this very affordable for you is a very different way to say it. The cost for today's treatment is, right, versus the value you're getting for today's treatment or for this crown. And my favorite is, in office specifically, is, we have an issue versus a problem, right? So many times as an office manager, as a dentist, we get, doctor, we have a problem. We have a problem. And problems are negative and nobody really wants to deal with them. So we have an issue is a very different way to say it. Look for positive words, look for ways to say things so it's not negative, so it shows some value in it, and think about the words that you use, not only with your patients, but also with your doctor and your team. So here's just some examples, right? So when it comes to customer service, I'm going to kind of go through each role or each part of the day where the patient's there for an appointment. So let's talk about answering phones. How fast do you answer the phones? Do you let it ring 2, 3, 4 times? Do you let it go to voicemail? Is that good customer service? Do you introduce yourself when you answer the phone? Do you introduce yourself with a smile? Are you friendly when you answer the phone? Do you make it easy for the patient to talk, right? To ask you questions. So there's a difference between, doctor's office, how can I direct your call, right? Versus, thank you for calling ABC Dental. This is Laura. How can I help you, right? So it's really important to think about how you're answering your phones, because not only is that amazing for your new patient experience, right? Because you never get a second chance to make a new patient or a first impression, a new first impression, but it's also amazing for everyday patients, like your regular patients. Like, one of the biggest complaints that patients have about dental offices is that when they first started with us, they felt like family. And now, as we've grown, they start to feel like a number. So it's important to slow down. One of the things I teach is #respect the phones. Your phone is the most important piece of technology in the dental office. Slow down, smile, make the patient feel welcome, and start the conversation so you can get the patient to talk. Don't go straight to, what insurance do you have? The next one is greeting the patient. So hygienist assistants, when the patient's out in the reception area, patients like to be greeted by name. Stand up. If you're standing at the front desk, stand up, shake their hand. If you're the receptionist, hi, welcome to the practice, Mrs. Jones. It's really nice to meet you. Give them directions of what to do. Don't just, have a seat or sign in, we'll be with you in a minute. But, welcome to the practice. My name is Laura. What's your name? Feel free to have some coffee. I'll let the doctor know you're here. Make yourself comfortable. So greet your patients like you would a guest to your home. Now, getting the patients from the lobby, I see this a lot in dental offices where, we go to get the patient from the lobby and they walk out and they go, Bob, follow me, okay? People don't like to be called like cattle, right? They don't want their follow me, and then you walk down the hall to the operatory, not even talking to the patient or looking at them. So I like to compare this to a hostess at a restaurant. Now, you guys have all had that hostess that's like party of two, follow me, and then they don't talk to you, they walk too fast, they throw your menus on the table and they walk away. Versus the hostess who's, welcome back to the restaurant. Have you guys been here before? Well, my name's Susie and I'll be taking care of you. I'm going to take you to your table here in the corner. Like, you really have a different experience to that a restaurant when the way the hostess greets you. So, greet them by name nicely. Walk over to them in the reception area. Don't yell from the back office for them to come follow you. Introduce yourself, ask them to follow you back, talk to them along the way, and let them know where you're going or where you're taking them. So we're going to be here in the last operatory on the right, or follow me in here. We're going to do a panoramic x-ray, and then we're going to go into the consultation room and meet with the doctor, or whatever it is. Let them know what you're doing with them. So like I said, big difference between, yelling from them across the room from the door, or, hi, Mrs. Jones, nice to see you again. The doctor's ready for you, would like me to take you back. And we're going to the last operatory. So how was your weekend, right? Really treat the patient like a person and not just like a nuisance. When you're with the patient, anywhere the patient is in the practice, it's your responsibility if that's your area. So specifically if the patient is in the back in this example, or if they're in the reception area and they're waiting out front, keep your focus on the patient. Pay attention to what they like to discuss. Keep your comments and stories appropriate. People don't like to wait, but if they do, it's much better to have a two-way conversation focused on them than a conversation focused on you. So make sure that you're recognizing the patient's interest, that you're talking about things that they like to talk about. And in many cases, some patients just want to be sat and left alone, and that's okay too. Just make sure they're comfortable. You let them know what's going on and to let you know if they need anything. And then ensure talking when downtime, not in lieu of treatment. So balance your communication and talking, right? You don't want to delay the treatment when the doctor comes in because you're talking about some, heated conversation. But in between treatment time or times when the doctor needs a break or there's a little stress going on, it's a great time to kind of lighten the mood, lighten the air by having conversations. So, have a seat. Good examples. Have a seat. I'm so glad it's Friday. Tonight I'm going to go out with friends and I'm pretty sure we're going to get drunk, right? Or we're going to get, it's going to be a late night. Think about your patients. More than likely, you've got a patient in the chair that really doesn't need to hear that. How about instead, happy Friday. Do you have any plans this weekend? And really focus on the patient. Now, nonverbal is actually more important than verbal. Nonverbal speaks louder than what you say. So like I said, when I called into the office and the person says, it's a sunny day at ABC Dental, what she said versus how I heard it, outweighs what she said. So people can read through your words. They can see how you really feel. If you're slouched back, if you're rolling your eyes, think about that because your nonverbal has to match your intention. Think about not just what you say, but how you're saying it. So for example, if somebody walks into the front door and I'm sitting there slouched with my back in my chair, I'm not showing a lot of interest and I'm like, yeah, so happy you're here, welcome to the practice. The patient's gonna think, no, you're not happy I'm here, versus standing up and greeting them with a smile and making sure the words that I say match my nonverbal. So make sure when you're working with your team that you're focusing on this because there are 3 types of experience we can give our patients. It can be amazing, it can be average, or it can be awful. And my hope is that you're focused on amazing because of course, if it's awful, people are gonna go out and talk about you on the internet because they're gonna tell people not to go to your practice. If it's average, patients they're not gonna go out and talk about you. They're not gonna accept larger treatment plans. They're not gonna refer their family and friends. You guys need to make sure it's always amazing. And that's done by knowing your why, continually improving, right? Learning, doing webinars like this, doing training, and realize that without the patients, ultimately you don't have a job. So you don't work for the insurance company. You don't work for, you work for the patients and you work for your doctor. And it takes a team. So work together and make it fun. If, a patient is going to can feel the aura of the office. They can feel the energy in the office without you guys even talking about it. They know when people aren't getting along. They know when there's stress going on. And we need to make sure we work as a team to let them know that we love what we do, or we're here to take care of them, and we like to have a lot of fun. So I've got a couple quotes through here just to kind of tie up thoughts. Everybody will make a good first impression, but only few will make a good lasting impression. So there's a lot of offices and training that I've seen focused on the new patient experience. It's all about the new patient experience, which is great. We want to make our new patients feel welcome and make their experience amazing. But we also want to focus on our current patients. There's statistics out there showing that the majority of dental offices in the United States are shrinking, which means you're actually losing more patients out of the back door than you're gaining in the front door. So an example is, let's say you're getting 50 new patients a month, but you're actually losing 70 patients a month because they haven't been in the last 18 months. They're actually gone and need to be reactivated. And a lot of times the reason patients are gone is because we don't have good systems, or we're not giving them amazing experience. So make sure that you're not just focused on the new patients, but you're focused on every patient in your practice. Okay, so let's talk about two of the main things that we do on a daily basis that the whole team is involved in that can up your customer service, that can help your team work better together. And the first one is huddles. Huddles are necessary. And I know that there's people on here probably like shaking their head going, yes, but we don't have them. You need to have them. If we're going to work as a team, if we're going to collaborate, if we're going to work together, if we're fully going to take care of our patients, then we need to meet in the morning, sometimes the night before, to really kind of review the day, right? To who's going to take what are we doing? What's our goal? We need to work together. And when you're not starting as a team, that's how we end up working as individuals or departments. So I'm not going to go over, the real details of a huddle, because each huddle in each practice runs a little differently, and there's lots of guidelines out there for you to follow. But I am going to tell you the 4 areas that I think you need to make sure you talk about in every huddle. First is numbers. You want to know, everybody on the team needs to know how they're doing daily and monthly, how your team's doing. This isn't just something the doctor and the office manager need to know, but the whole team needs to know, are we on goal? Are we ahead of goal? Are we behind goal? And if we're behind goal, how are we going to catch up? The next thing is challenges, areas for teamwork for the day ahead, and ways to improve your day. Like I said, we have stressful days. It gets crazy. There are times where it is just insane. And if we ignore that it's going to get like that, and we don't talk about it ahead of time, that's when we get a lot of stress and drama. That's when we get people sighing and slamming instruments because they feel they're the only one working because, 14 patients just came in at one time. So it's better in the morning huddle to look at the day and say, hey, it looks like it's going to be pretty crazy between 1 and 2. Do you think maybe somebody from the front can come back and help us turn over rooms? Or we're short staffed in the front, can one of the assistants come from the back and come up front and help with, greeting patients? Where are areas we can work together as a team, and then also give each other a pass when it gets a little crazy, right? Just understand that it's going to be a little crazy during that time, or we're all going to jump in and help each other out, and we're not going to take anything personally. It's better to do that proactively than after the fact. The next thing we have to look at is opportunities, openings in the schedule, and find out ways we can make them more productive. So that again has to do with numbers. If we're looking at the numbers, we're all on the same page, we're going to look at the schedule today and we're going to say, it looks like there's an opportunity this afternoon, and I have somebody in, I'm a hygienist and I have somebody in my chair that needs a crown. Maybe we can move them from my chair over and get the crown done. Or, there's a patient who's been talking about whitening. Maybe I can find out if they can stay and do the impressions for the whitening trays. So we should be looking for opportunities. And then we should end every huddle with something positive, something that sends the team off in a bonded way or motivating. And there's lots of different ways you could do this. You could watch a video, you could read, something inspirational, a quote, you can watch a little comical video on YouTube. There's lots of ways to do it. But what we want to do is we want everyone to leave the huddle in the morning in a great mood, feeling like they're not alone, that they're out there to conquer the day together as a team. So, back in the day before there was amazing new systems and technology out there, I would just have a huddle form and we would run, this is an example of one we have on Front Office Rocks. And this is where we would go through and checklist to make sure that we're doing all of the things that we want to cover in the huddle in the morning. And then everybody would come in with their own sheet. On the bottom right is just an example of a hygiene huddle form, and they prepare before they show up. So when we get together at the huddle, we're not scrambling around trying to find information. We're ready to exchange information, do it quickly and do it efficiently so we can get out of the huddle and start the day effectively. So here's some of my rules when it's regards to huddles. So the first thing is everybody needs to show up on time. Okay, we need to have the huddle start well in advance of the first patient coming in. Now, again, there's different philosophies. Some people think a huddle can run as fast as 7 minutes. Some people take a half an hour. That kind of just depends on your practice and your philosophy. But if the huddle's supposed to start, let's say 15 minutes before the first patient, then you should be clocked in at 20 minutes before the first patient. Your lunch should be put away, your purse should be in your locker, and you should have your information about your patients and be at the huddle on time. And that includes everybody. So if your doctors are listening or need a reminder, tell them that they're part of this too and that they need to be there on time. Everybody needs to come with their part. Everybody needs to show up prepared for the huddle. So, the financial advisor should know what patients owe balances. The treatment coordinator should know what patients still have outstanding treatment to be done. The hygienist should know whether or not patients are due for x-rays or not. The office manager should be looking at the whole flow of the day and where can we find more production and treatment. So everybody should come with their part. This isn't a meeting where we just come and listen. This is a meeting where we come and share so that we can have a super effective day. We need to have time to focus on the day, not catch up. So the huddle should be focused and to the point. This is not catch up time. This is not chit chat. This is not, hey, what'd you do last night? And how was that movie you went to? Do that at lunch. This is where we focus on what's going on today. The next thing that we need to do is not just focus on production. Many times huddles will just go through what are we doing procedurally today, and I could just look at the schedule to know that. We want to look at other things like I talked about, vital things like balances, outstanding treatment, have they sent us referrals, do they have family members that haven't come to the practice? Like, don't just focus on production, and talk about one interesting fact for every patient that day. They just got back from vacation, they just had a grandchild, they just got married, so that when the patient comes in, we're not treating them like a number or a procedure or a dental code. We're treating them like a person, welcoming back from their vacation. We're going to talk enough about dentistry, but people want to remember that you know them and you remember things about them. So make sure you share it in the huddle. Like I said, have an outline, either a piece of paper or use software or something to help you run through the huddle so that it's the same way every day and everything is talked about. And then, like I said, run it the same way every day. It needs to be consistent. We need to know exactly what to expect so we can get it through it efficiently and effectively every day. A couple other things that I have about what to bring to the huddle. So the office manager, that's the overview of the day, what the day looks like, ways we can improve, how we can get better teamwork from the team, and review the numbers and the goals. The doctor, of course, the production schedule, just looking at the doctor's schedule, what they foresee might happen, making sure that they know their schedule and everything's in line for them to be able to produce what's in their schedule. The dental assistant is not only looking at today's production, but also looking at making sure the lab cases are in, making sure any outstanding treatment, what the patient's going to need next. And then big one here is the dental assistants really should be the ones advising the team where emergencies go during the day. So if we do have an emergency that calls in, what are the best times during today's schedule to put in the emergency? The next is hygiene patient review. Of course, the hygienist should be reviewing their patients and what outstanding treatment they have. The patient financial review, somebody should be looking at what the patient owes, the status of the payment, any other financial concerns, and then anybody else from the front desk, information about the patient. So you want to break this up so that everybody is bringing knowledge and data and information for us to share. Now, this is overall meeting etiquette for every meeting, but a huge pet peeve of mine, so I want to make sure that I bring it up here, and it's good to share with your team. for every meeting, including the huddle, you should be on time. You should sit appropriately, means, you know, don't slouch and roll your eyes and look bored, but actually sit up and be involved. No cell phones in the meetings. Those should be put aside. Those should not be in the meetings. They're just a distraction. We want you to be involved, you know, add your 2 cents, and don't wait till the end, right? Don't wait till, okay, we're ready to break. Oh, hold on, I have 6 questions. And then lastly, don't be Debbie Downer. Don't be that person who's like, well, that's not going to work. Well, they never want to do that. Be somebody who's involved and wants to help the production of the day. The last thing I want to go over before I jump into teams, and then we're almost done, is handoffs. And the purpose of a handoff is to maintain good control from the moment the person walks in the office. So the handoff is really a way to make your patient feel like you're in control from the beginning. Think about the last time that you went into a medical office. How did it feel when they made you wait and they didn't know what was going on or what to expect next? I know whenever I go into medical offices, I'm like, oh my gosh, because they're not nice. They put you in an operatory, you wait 20, 30 minutes, you have no idea what's going on. We don't want to do that to our patients. So we should be looking at our daily, you know, an appointment from beginning to end as a production line. They check in here, then they get handed off here, then they get handed off here, then the next step is here. There should be a flow that you have from the first minute they walk in to they finally leave, they pay their bill, and they're on their way out. And that's how handoff should work, is to help them flow through like an assembly line. So the main components of a good handoff are, first, it needs to start with the attention of the person receiving the handoff. So many times we dump a patient onto the next employee and that person's not even ready to accept them. So make yourself available, and or if you're handing somebody off to the next person, make sure they're available. If you need to chit chat with a patient for a minute or two to give that next employee that's receiving the handoff time to be able to receive the handoff, do that. Then you want to talk about what happened during the appointment and what is going to be next. So review the appointment or review what just happened, review the conversation, and then what's the next thing that we should be doing with that patient. Review any discussion you have with the patient, you know, review any outstanding treatment, review what they discussed with their questions they had, review that with the next person so that data is transferred from one person to the next. And then make sure that you're getting acknowledgement from the person on your team that you're handing off to, and from the patient that what we heard and said and what we talked about is true, and that the next person's going to be able to help them in the next part of the process. So there's different times to do handoffs, and these are just some examples up there, but basically handoffs should happen either when the location changes in the office, so they go from the reception area to the operatory, or the operatory to the front desk, or the operatory to the consult room, or when information is exchanged. So if some new piece of information is discussed or communicated, that needs to be handed off to the next person. Or when the provider changes, so now the hygienist is done and the doctor's coming in to do the exam, there's a handoff there. Or we're changing a step in the process. Like I said, we're moving from treatment to the front office for them to schedule. So there's different times, and every time something changes with location, information, provider, or step in the appointment, there needs to be a handoff, okay? So there's examples here, and we can put this in the notes, and we'll have these available, of just different ways to do handoffs. You know, the receptionist in the front lobby, and we know they're talking to the patient, and we find out some information. When the assistant comes back to get the patient, we want to pass that information off of what we heard the patient say when they're in the reception area. Another one is when a new provider is taking over. So when the doctor's done with the patient and the assistant's going to finish up, there needs to be a handoff there. Or when the hygienist is doing the cleaning, but the doctor's coming in to do the exam, there needs to be a handoff when the next provider is taking over. Or example of checking a patient out. When you're clinical and you're walking the patient to the front office to get checked out, whatever was discussed, whatever the front office needs to know, needs to be handed off to the patient before we check the patient out. So what I suggest is you go through your assembly line, figure out from check-in to check-out, what are the steps along the way, and then make sure everybody on your team understands that and practice the handoff so that they get through the assembly line efficiently. Because what it means with a stable business is a good business that's in control, which is also good. So people like control. patients like to know that we are kind of directing them to where they need to go and what's going to happen next. So a business that is in control is also good. So lastly, I just want to motivate you guys to spend some time in learning about how to become a high performing team, because that's really what we need. Is we need the front and the back and everybody getting along together. We are not just individuals. We're not just a group. You know, some of us are teams. We have a shared purpose, but honestly, the high performing teams are ones that really have ownership and really work together as a team. And remember that there's no I in team. You know, I know a lot of times we feel like, well, I do all the work, or I'm the dental assistant and I'm busy in the back, or I'm the hygienist. And if it wasn't for me, you know, patients would be taken care of. But these are all the things that we do, and it takes a team, right? It's like takes a village to get this done. So there's no I in team. And just remember that everybody is part of this to really help our patients. So let's work together and not against each other. Let's focus on the patient, because that's ultimately why we're all here and taking care of our patients. So we want to make sure we're doing things like facilitating communication, setting ground rules with our team, you know, talking about how we can work together as a team, consider everybody, encourage brainstorming, knowing the goal. Like we have to have ground rules just like a sports team does, or any other team. Let's work to make sure that we're including everybody on the team and we're all working towards the same why. And it's important that we have meetings along the way to ensure that we're all towards the same goal, that we're all working as a team towards helping our patients, growing the practice, and ultimately what our doctor wants for the office. Because teamwork, coming together in the beginning is one thing. Keeping it together is progress, but working together as a high-performing team is success. So on that note, I'm going to open it up for questions. I'm going to pass it back over, but I just want to let you guys know, if you want to learn more from me, or if you have questions about anything I've talked about today, there's a live chat on my website. You can also send an email or ask Laura, and then definitely keep up with us and follow us on social media. So I think I'm done. I think I did it. I went really fast at the end, so I didn't go over an hour. Do we have any questions? I'm going to hand it back over to you.
We definitely do. That was fantastic. I also, on top of your contact information here, I strongly recommend everybody getting your book. Like I said, I find it valuable, especially as somebody who hasn't worked in a practice.
Thank you.
Let's see here. Okay, we have a few about the huddle.
Okay.
And one of them kind of ties into the end part there. If people aren't, like, if you have a couple people in the practice who aren't getting along on the team, is the huddle a place to squash a beef, or do you do that at a different time?
Excellent question. The huddle is absolutely not the place you would handle anything like that. So I would not, if you have a couple people not getting along, that is something you're going to want to do privately, but with the people behind closed doors. I wouldn't handle that in front of the rest of the team. If it's a cultural thing that it's kind of just allowed, you're going to want to change the culture. And I've got other training on that, and that's a bigger topic in itself. But that is something you would handle in a team meeting to say, hey, we have new rules to play by, and everybody needs to follow these rules. But none of those conversations should be happening in the huddle. The huddle is focused on the patients, the day, and making sure that we have the best outcome of the day possible.
Awesome. Let's see. And again, with huddles, a lot of what you talked about looked like morning huddles. Do you advocate for afternoon ones as
That
well?
really, yeah, that really depends on your practice and the team. You know, I don't know that it really matters as long as you're, you know, following the guidelines of, you know, going over the day and areas that we talked about. Some offices may want to have more than one a day. Some may want to do it the night before. That's kind of up to the practice. The one thing I can say though is to make sure that if people are not in the huddle, maybe you have split shifts or people who come later, that the information talked about in the huddle gets transferred to the people who weren't there, because it's kind of, you know, pointless to only have a couple people involved in the huddle if you're not going to transfer the information to the rest of the team.
Oh, I really like this question. In terms of talking about the why of a practice, if a practice doesn't have a mission or vision statement, uh, how can they begin that process?
Well, we have videos on Front Office Rock specifically for that. But really, if you want to go real rudimentary, like really to the basics, is one of the things we did once a year in our practice is we have a meeting with the whole team and talk about our why. Start with the doctor, find out from the doctor why they became a dentist, Why did they decide to buy the practice or start a practice? What was their, I mean, they have a reason, right? Find out from them what their purpose and their why is. And then what we did with our team is everybody shared from their perspective what their why is, what gets them up in the morning. And really it's a great thing to do because it's amazing to see how everybody on the team should be, if you've got the right team, all in line with serving the same purpose or similar purpose. So that would be the kind of the start is really, our doctors think they talk enough, but they don't. So really getting the doctor to tell us their purpose, their why, their mission is really going to help that process start.
And then piggybacking off of that, do you do this yearly and then also kind of like recalibrate with a doctor to make sure that their mission is the same each time, or if their focus is shifting for the upcoming year?
Yep, definitely. So you want to, I mean, like I said, a mission isn't just something you stick on the wall and everybody kind of just points at. It's really the culture and the drive behind the practice. And it changes. You know, there's long-term goals, but sometimes things change, you know, so you want to make sure that you do calibrate every year and you know, sit back down. Like I said, I've got some great training videos on the website about this because there are people out there who can help with this, but you want to make sure everybody, your doctor is still going towards the same goal and mission, and then everybody on your team, because sometimes we find that somebody who was on the team and all gung-ho and ready to go for the last however many years might not be still in the same spot moving forward. So it's a good way to just, you know, touch base with everybody and make sure we're all still playing on the same team for the same goal.
Awesome. Okay, I thought this was a really good question as well. A lot of what you discussed really focused on kind of being personable and present with patients. Do you have any tips for maintaining that throughout the day and not turning into the school marm or the librarian by the end of the day?
Yes, I do. I think some of it is sometimes we need a break, take a minute, you know, have somebody cover, take a walk, go outside for a second, just take a deep breath, have something in front of you that reminds you, you know, maybe on your monitor or in your operatory that just reminds you of our purpose. Be accountable to each other. You know, we all have tough days. We all have tough times and tough patients. So be okay. I mean, I'm not saying go to somebody else on the team and gossip about patients, but just say, oh my gosh, that was so difficult, and just get it off your chest so that you can go, all right, time to move on. And then lastly is just remind everybody on the team to smile. You know, smile just goes a long way. And even if sometimes we give each other that smile from across the, you know, the reception area, like, oh my gosh, it's one of those days, but it's still humorous and it still kind of lightens the mood. And we just need to remember that because we're all in it from different perspectives in the office. And just knowing that I'm not the only one up against this makes you feel a little bit more positive of getting through it.
I think that's great. I always advocate for gallows humor too. I feel like that sometimes helps you get through those tough times. Let's see. Oh, here's one. How much is too much when a team member just doesn't want to cooperate with ideas, but the rest of the team is fully on board?
Well, there's a process. There's a thing called change management, which basically, if you're trying to change things, implement things, and there's somebody who's just pushing back, you know, there might be multiple reasons that they're doing that. A lot of people are afraid of change. A lot of people just get set in their ways. Some people are just troublemakers. And so you need to go through the process and kind of identify what the issues are with this person, and then having real strong communication with them to say, you know, is there some reason that you're pushing back? Is there some reason you're not doing what's asked of you, or why you're giving attitude or whatever? And then making sure that you give them the, you know, you give them as much support as possible. You tell them you're there to help them. And then at some point, if they're still continuing just to push back, now it's dependent on their job. You know, their job description to have a job in our office is you need to adapt and you need to grow. And if you're going to be that sore thumb that sticks out, that might be a problem, then you may not have a job anymore. And I find that unless they're truly a troublemaker, that's going to make them pay attention. You know, that's going to make them adapt, and that's going to help them to grow. But really come at it first with an attitude of support and helping them grow, not like, oh my gosh, they're such a troublemaker, especially if you've never really sat down and had a good conversation with them.
Yeah, sometimes people just need some positive reinforcement, some coaching, right?
And sometimes I think too, it's that whole, You're stronger with a team, not always positive. You know, we get together and we're like, you know, the assistants or the hygienists in the back or whatever, and we need to pull that out. We need to say, you know what, we're one big team. We're not individual teams. We're not individual departments. And yes, we all have our own issues in our areas, but as a team, we're all going to come together, and we're not going to be these separate, you know, gossip groups or whatever. We really need to work towards one goal.
Well, I think that's it for the questions. This has been absolutely fantastic, Laura. Thank you so much. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, I think that, you know, sometimes, I guess I should say yes. I think that sometimes we just feel like we're on an island all by ourselves and people don't understand what we're going through. And I can tell you that there are tons of people going through what you're going through. So stay connected, reach out, get in touch with me, stay connected with RevenueWell and all the trainings that they have, because you're not on an island alone. We're all facing the same things, and we can all be there to support each other.
I couldn't have said it better. That was absolutely perfect. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in. I hope you all enjoyed this, and have a great rest of the day.